And I'm a communications consultant with National Sorghum Producers and also Nebraska Sorghum. And it's been a fantastic day of discussion so far, and I'm really looking forward to this panel as we're going to shift our focus now to sorghum's role in food and nutrition. So I'm going to read through everyone's bios here real quick, and then we'll kick that off here. So first with us is Norma Ritz Johnson. She's Executive Director of the United Sorghum Checkoff Program, returning to the organization in 2021 after a leadership role with the Lubbock Chamber of Commerce with a degree in agricultural education and communications from Texas Tech University. Norma led communications efforts for national sorghum producers from 1998 to 2004. She brings extensive experience in public relations and advocacy for sorghum industry. Norma's leadership helps drive the checkoff initiatives to support sorghum farmers. She's recognized for her work in agricultural communications and public affairs. Next to Norma, we have Mike Baker from Hitchcock County, Nebraska, where he grows white and red varieties of grain sorghum, wheat, corn, and soybeans. He owns and operates Baker's Acres with on-farm storage and a sorghum cleaning facility where they can bulk ship food-grade sorghum. He's a long-standing host of the annual Nebraska Sorghum Hybrid Plot and Field Day, and Mike previously served as the chairman of the Nebraska Grain Sorghum Board. He is also a previous member of the National Sorghum Producers Legislative Committee. He graduated from the University of Nebraska with a degree in agronomy and was a member of the inaugural sorghum leadership class, which is sponsored by National Sorghum Checkoff. Next to Mike, we have Nate McClellan. He is founder and owner of Nature Nate's LLC and is a company focused on popping sorghum. With a background in high-tech and small business ownership, Nate invented the continuous flow popper, a machine that makes it easier to spread the word about sorghum. He has dedicated over a decade to promoting the health benefits of sorghum and is passionate about introducing new nutritious foods to the market. Nate's innovative approach to sorghum production has earned him recognition in the industry. His commitment to wellness and sustainable food practices drives his entrepreneurial success. And last but certainly not least, on our very end, we have Chef Nazim Khan. He is an award-winning executive chef and a culinary leader at Bryan Health, specializing in plant-based proteins for patient and retail meals. He has worked at prestigious locations, including the Ritz-Carlton and Marriott. He was named a United Fresh Produce Excellence in Food Service Award winner in 2016. Chef Khan is passionate about healthy, locally sourced food and shares his knowledge through culinary demonstrations and community events. In his free time, he serves local firefighters, honoring the legacy of 9/11. He holds a World Chef Certified Master Chef status and is a member of the Nebraska Food Council. I did not bring the clicker for Norma, so I'm going to run and grab that real quick. But we are hopeful that Norma's going to kick us off and tell us a little bit about sorghum's role in nutrition and some of the work that the Checkoff has been doing.
Thank you so much. It's really great to be here today. It's wonderful to be up on this panel. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be exciting. My only trepidation that I have is that there's literally so much momentum and so much going on in this space for sorghum that I'll leave something out. But I think everyone knows how to get in touch with me or get in touch with Christine, and I can continue to fill you in on the details. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of that momentum and what is driving some of that for sorghum in this space. But I can't do that without looking back and talking about how we got here. These things don't happen overnight, and it takes time to build momentum. Today's Nebraska state boards and our national boards, we remind them, I like to remind them that in some cases, yes, we're making incremental gains over time, but in a lot of cases, we're planting trees under whose shade we may never sit, but that's still something that's very important to do when it comes to long-term strategies. I wanted to recognize how all this got started And definitely wanted to express gratitude and recognize James Borderstrass, who is here with us today, that was on the original Sorghum Checkoff Board that got all this work started, and Gerald Simonson, who was on the National Sorghum Board as the sort of startup talks for the checkoff were beginning to get going. Some of these things do take time, but it's always important to recognize kind of and look back and appreciate how it all started. And then Tracy Zink currently serves on the Checkoff Board, representing Nebraska there, and does a great job. And so she's continuing to help keep some of that momentum going. It is the bold producer leadership and guidance that has gotten us where we are, and things are really starting to take off. A lot of the work that we do in this space for sorghum kind of took a bit of a jump a couple of years ago when we, thanks to our national board's confidence and encouragement, were able to restructure some of our marketing efforts at the Sorghum Checkoff. That allowed us to actually go out and we've been able to assign subject matter experts in marketing across the landscape of the very versatile uses of sorghum. And so one of those spaces is food and nutrition and health. So a couple of years ago, we were able to attract and hire some top talent in this space with a registered dietitian and licensed nutritionist that is part of our team. Her name is Amir DeBruzy. She deserves a lot of the credit for some of the information that we're able to present to you. We began with her joining the team, really looking, and she taught us to look at sorghum in this space through the eye of a consumer. Most of us, when we look at sorghum, and most of us that come from agriculture, we tend to look at sorghum from a percent content standpoint when it comes to protein or different nutrients. And what she did was really quite eye-opening in terms of this chart as an example and just as a backdrop for discussions today, and some things that you'll hear about later on this evening, is she taught us to present sorghum's nutritional profile in the way that consumers across the United States are taught to by looking at nutrition labels. And so when you look at the nutrition label of any food product, what you see is the recommended daily allowance that is there in terms of what the recommendation is for how many grams of protein do you need daily, how many grams of fiber do you need daily. And so when we stacked sorghum up against other foods, you can see from this chart how we begin to look at how we communicate the benefits of sorghum and the attributes of sorghum to the consumer. And so that's really a lot of the backdrop against which we communicate now, whether it's with the food industry or whether it's with the consumer as well. Gerald and I were having a conversation earlier about V8. He mentioned something about homemade V8. I call this my V8 chart. This is the chart that even though I work with it almost every day and we look at it and we created it, every time I see it, I want to go, oh, I could have had sorghum today. Why didn't I have sorghum today? Because it just makes sense when you look at the chart. So this next slide kind of tells you, I talked a little bit about momentum. It tells you where we are in terms of just a snapshot of some of the food products that are now out there that include sorghum as an ingredient. It's really taken off with the consumer desire that's out there for ancient grains, for novel ingredients, for sustainable ingredients, and they like to know where their food comes from. And so one really good problem that we're having is the inability to always keep up with all the new product launches that are out there, and that's kind of where it's taken off in terms of momentum. This chart, this slide, I think is actually missing one of our new ones, unless I just overlooked it, that literally just popped up this week. And it's a product called Mighty Meat Puffs. It's another children's product from Mission Foods, and it's very similar to an extruded product. And Gerber really put a significant dent in this part of the market for sorghum because they launched their product, the Snacks for Baby, the little crunchies, a few years ago. And what makes me so proud, because I love working with and for farmers, is you can't see it on this particular graphic, but on the back side of that label is a photo of sorghum in the field and talks about how you all produce sorghum for that product. The other product that's on this slide next to it, Once Upon a Farm, is the brand, the company that Jennifer Garner, the actress, and is a partner in. And that label also includes discussion on it and information about sorghum production and talks all about how you all produce sorghum for that product. And so that's something that we're very excited about. There's a lot going on in this space, and that's just sort of the backdrop of where we are right now.
I have a 5-year-old and a 20-month-old at home. I can confirm they love the puffs. They like all of them. They're all the same, and so we have some of those at my house. Moving on, Mike, I have a question for you to kind of give an introduction for us. We've talked about production right now. So as a producer yourself, can you walk us through a little bit of your process to farming, storing, and then being able to ship out some food-grade sorghum?
Well, the whole process probably, I'm going to say, of course, began when I graduated college, graduated from University of Nebraska, and came back, and honestly, Southwest Nebraska, as I always like to say, the Cornhusker State, not real well known for sorghum anyway, so I kind of dove into that. Not a lot of support from my father, family actually, more from the neighbors anyway, and just kind of grew, worked at it a little bit, and I'm going to say 2012, maybe 2011, when I got a phone call, I got on the checkoff board, so I started getting deeper and deeper, and just, as I always say, it's amazing where life takes you, I guess, after certain changes. So I got into leadership. Sorghum, probably one of the best things I ever did in the inaugural class, and toured around the whole United States, started getting ideas, networking, meeting people, and started thinking, boy, this may not be a bad idea for what I want to do. So I was like, I bet you I probably can get into processing anyway. I'm already farming. I've been farming for 20 years anyway. And then how can I add value to my farm, I guess, is what it came down to. So started making connections, lots of cold calls, lots and lots of hours on the telephone. And finally found that one niche person who gave me a shot anyway. And just grown from there, just from being a farmer to our grain facility, which was built in 1979, and I've taken it and expanded on it, put a cleaning facility in, packaged stuff. I ship bulk grain out, all food grade and non-food grade grain sorghum, but primarily that's all it is. And ship bulk, metric ton tote bags, and certification process is what I've learned the last couple of years here anyway. I mean, everybody needs to be certified, sanitary issues, stuff like that, and just the market continually grows year after year, and I have positive things to look forward to in the future.
Can you tell us a little more on having the food grade versus non-food grade and what that looks like in your operation?
There's really no issues with that. Honestly, I think all sorghum can be considered food grade, but a lot of the markets you're looking for up there, they all want kind of a usually a white is what they want. They don't want the dark reds, although I say that, I have shipped some loads of dark red to some Indian millers in East Coast in Baltimore. They wanted the dark reds for whatever reason. I don't know. I didn't ask.
Polyphenols.
But
Polyphenols.
well, there you go. I'm learning something anyway. He tried to explain to me what he was using it for, what dishes, and they were all African dishes. All I could get out of it. But most of the whites, the segregations on the in the bin sites, we have 15 different bins that we can select from fields that we bring, non-food grade or food grade, and obviously isolate those out and pull it out through my cleaner, then ship it on down the road.
All right, Nate, for you to get us kicked off here today, tell us how you discovered sorghum as a functional food and how you decided to start experimenting with that to find Nature's Nate.
Okay, yeah, it's a little bit of a long story, but I'll start off by saying, why can't you eat 4 Snickers candy bars in a row? Anyway, I ran marathons. I was, mountain climbing. I was in the top shape of my life, and I developed this neurological disorder called restless leg syndrome. It's my mother has it, and I think her mother had it. I don't know if it's hereditary or not, but it's very, anybody have restless leg syndrome? No. Anyway, it makes your legs feel like there's worms crawling back there when you're trying to rest and go to sleep. So I learned that it was from inflammation, and I kind of went through a lifestyle change to alleviate that. And I, stopped eating a lot of sugar, processed food, takeout. And during this time, I was looking for healthier snacks. And I remember my mom used to make popped wheat for me when I was a kid. And I started making popped wheat, and the kids were eating it, taking it to school. People got a hold of it. They liked it. I was encouraged to get it in stores, and I did. They took it in. And so I started packaging it and selling popped wheat. Meanwhile, there's a lot of talk going on about intolerances to gluten and wheat, and everybody was steering away from it 12 years ago. This was 12 years ago. And I'm in this grocery stores demoing, and I'm getting tired of hearing everybody say, nope, I don't do wheat. And I'm like, okay. And so I went down the bulk aisle, and I picked out 11 gluten-free grains, and I didn't know what most of them were. There's teff, quinoa, millet, sorghum, and the way I work is I'll get pretty amped on something, and I couldn't sleep that night, so I got up at 2 a.m, and I started roasting and toasting. And when I got to the sorghum, I didn't even have a lid handy, and it littered my kitchen. And I was like, what is this stuff? And I ate it, and it was good. I'm like, how could we not be eating this stuff? And 1 out of 10 people know what sorghum is, and I was, back then. Now about 2 out of 10 people know it. So good job, Sorghum Checkoff. When we get it to 3 out of 10, we're going to be really rolling. So then I made this cool little concoction called Glorious Grains, and it had those 11 grains that were all roasted, toasted, and popped, and it looked like birdseed. Wasn't a great seller. It was fantastic. It tasted wonderful, so deep and rich, the flavors. But one guy from the Battleground, I was at an outdoor market, and he goes, I really like that white one. I'm going on a road trip. Can you just make me some of that? And I'm like, yeah, I got my kettle here. And I used to do it all by hand with a kettle and like this. And I popped him up a bag, and he threw me a tin, and it was like a big light bulb just went off in my head. And so from then on, it was all about sorghum.
We're going to pass the clicker down to Chef Nazim. He's going to tell us a little bit about what he does at Bryan Health. And for those of you who might not know, that is one of the hospital networks in the state.
Yeah. What a great story, Nate. Yeah. I always tell people, my name is Nazim Khan. So I tell a little bit about my story. It's all about journey, all about telling a story, right? So my journey started from Bangladesh, where I born. Then I came to United States to study in Georgia College as a business student. But then I ended up as a chef. So I don't want to tell you the story because long story short, because if I start telling the story, then it'll be like all night here and we stuck here. So I always tell people a little bit about my journey that I call it. I always tell people like New York to Nebraska, hotels to healthcare, food works as a medicine, and food makes people together, and food makes people happy, right? When we are hungry, we're cranky at the same time. So who I trained with one of the best certified master chef, Chef George McNeil, who used to be Ritz-Carlton corporate chef. Chef always taught us, always look for some new stuff and be innovative, I'm not a rocket scientist, I don't build rocket, I just cook plain food. And Chef always says, go local, go to the farmers, find out the right food, and try to make healthy food. Yes, of course, when I was in hotels, I used to use Polugro butter to all kinds of stuff. But when I started doing a job with Bryan Health, then I said, what else is out there that is healthy for my clientele? Who's my clientele? All the patients you are, my patients' families, doctors, nurses, and all the workers. So I said I have to think about different way that I can not compromising the quality of the food, but I wanted to give them a healthy and better tasty food. Plant-based came out, and I always wanted to be cutting edge. What is new and sexy every day, right? So I started looking for plant-based, like that was 8-9 years ago. When I was growing up as a kid, Bangladesh is not a rich country, so our teachers used to say that lentil is a poor man goat. Goat meat is very expensive. So I did not realize that what that mean to me. So when I start as a chef, and I realized that he meant the protein. So that means lentil has the protein that goat has almost, right? And then in New York City, when I used to work in New York Marriott Marquis, Times Square biggest hotel, so one of the Italian chef, and I don't want to mention anybody's name, but anytime a vegetarian walks in, he said, just make him a pasta with tomato sauce. You know, so he used to get mad. And every time doing pasta with the tomato sauce, actually we are not giving them protein, and I cannot switch or change because he's the chef. So I always think about, like, you know, how whoever is vegetarian, why we are not thinking about that. So anytime then when I become a chef, you know, I have lots of vegetarian items for the vegetarian people. Even if I'm doing a banquet for 500 people, I used to make portobello mushroom steak, so it looks similar to steak, so stack them up. So when I start in a hospital, so I always think about like how I can do better. And every day I try to do better. You know, I've been working with millets for a long time, but sorghum I've been using for 2.5 years. But we don't use a lot, but we know we have to build up a recipes. I bring some recipe card, I think Jesse put it on the table and stuff. And also I just wrote a cookbook for wellness for our cancer patients. So that has all the millets and sorghum recipes, including all the healthy lifestyle. So Bryan Health published the book, so we have it. We're just going to launch that as a PDF format. And I also teach at UNL as their hotel tourism and hospitality management as their adjunct teacher. So it's just a journey. We just have to know what is inside of the box, then we can think what is outside of the box. So I always think that way. You know, I always push myself, like what else I can do and what else I can help my customer to get better nutrients, where I can get the most macronutrients. And these days, gluten-free is everywhere. You know, so 10, 15 years ago when I was in New York City cooking, nobody asked me for, oh, I'm celiac disease, or I cannot eat gluten, so chef make me some gluten-free food. But these days, I see that often. So we have gluten-free pizzas, gluten-free noodle bowl, gluten-free. We have, Bryan Health has all kinds of dietary restricted people can enjoy the meal in my every stations. We have, I can tell, the state-of-the-art cafeteria in Bryan Health 10 years ago when I got hired. So we put $1.3 million just in an employee cafeteria. So patients, families comes and enjoy the meal there. So we have lots of action stations. I think I probably talking a lot, but what was the question, Jesse? I mean, I have to get back to it again.
I was introducing yourself.
Oh, okay.
You do have some slides.
I have some slides. Okay.
Them
So
and make you even more hungry after lunch.
okay. So this is Bryan Health. So we launched, food works as a medicine, and then I kind of play the name with all kinds of lentil, grain, beans, and stuff, and we take pictures. So so I talk about Indo-Asian millet in 2013. So these are all our plant-based protein 5 days a week. So we have a plant-based station. You can see every day we are, and plant-based is not only the plant meat that you can buy. You know, we try to create our own lentil kofta. You know, we try to do falafel every Monday. We do taco tostada with lots of lentil and plant-based meat with it. So and I don't want to talk about that. Probably that is Norma's stuff. And here's some cookies. Here's some sorghum tabbouleh that I make in a cone for one of the VIP event. Here's some shrimp risotto, sorghum risotto. So risotto, it means like the way of cooking the rice. So instead of the rice, I use the sorghum. Then we have roasted mushroom asparagus sorghum salad that doctors and lots of our employees love it. And then all those pictures done by me, so I wanted to make sure that I'm holding some food. So that way I'm not telling or picking up any pictures from Google Docs. And that's all my slides.
Perfect. Question for whole panel can chime in here, but we've talked a lot about consumer trends. So can you give us a small recap on where we've seen that changing and maybe where we see that going in the future?
I'll kick that off, and that is just what the topic of the moment is. I mean, it's something that I think if you're in sorghum and if you're in food and you've been working in sorghum in the food space for a while, it's not new. It is evolving, and that is sorghum and food as medicine. Sorghum as medicine was mentioned earlier, but that topic is now top of mind just because of the last year, and now the current administration and their discussion around health and food's role in health. Sorghum, I think, is again checking all the boxes when it comes to what consumers are increasingly going to be being made aware of and are aware of, and that is looking at solutions, whether from a gluten-free standpoint. You'll begin to see food's role in diabetes and blood sugar discussed, and sorghum with its lower glycemic index that has a role in insulin response in the body, et cetera. You're going to hear more about that later today, but all of those characteristics that sorghum has. Earlier, as we passed the mic down, heard, I think it was Mike, or no, it was Nate mentioned polyphenols. Polyphenols and other bioactive compounds
Flavonoids.
in sorghum are beginning to be studied for their characteristics and their ability to address or prevent certain health challenges in people, whether that's inflammation. You're going to hear more today later about metabolic syndrome, which includes diabetes and heart disease. And then that even has implications on the growth of cancer cells and cancer prevention down the line as well. I'm not the subject matter expert in that, and I'm really excited about a speaker that we have later that's going to address that. But that is really, I think, the next thing, especially as food's role in health becomes more and more covered in the media and discussed among consumers. I do know that, we do measure what those, a lot of the CPGs, the consumer packaged goods companies that we work with, do look at what appeals to a consumer on the front label of a product, and it continues to be ancient green, novel ingredient, resource conserving, sustainable. So that's the other part, the other end of the trends that we continue to see in consumers.
Nate wanted to include some.
Yeah. I just want to say, since I've been doing this for 12 years, the vibe of the clean label has just exploded, and I've been doing a lot of events this last year, probably 20 events where I go to a big event center like the fairgrounds, and we'll do a sportsman show or home and garden show or anywhere we can meet 80,000 people. And our booth is really popular, and people are interested in sorghum, and they see all the benefits, and there's an excitement about it. And I'm really hoarse at the end of the day from talking and explaining and teaching to everybody about sorghum and all the benefits. But people are super excited in general. Just one more thing. Also, and something that's helping is these doctors on social media, influencers, Dr. Gundry, Dr. Greger, there's another doctor, I can't remember his name, and they all have a large amount of fans, and all those fans are spreading the news, so it's really perpetuating.
Yeah. So, what I can say to that, according to the business demand, we change, right? So, and at the same time, customers or our clientele, they're highly educated about the food, what they're consuming, because everybody wants to live longer. And so especially in healthcare, so we get that a lot. So like gluten-free as a common things that we have to just comply with. So as a chef, if you wanted to be a cutting-edge trend and you wanted to do the right things for your patients and patients' family and your clientele, then you need to learn what is coming into the pipeline. So, so according to the business demand will change. So we need to make sure that we understand, I cannot talk about sorghum nutrition. Even I was reading a couple of paper here and there, I was looking at it and I see that sorghum is good for cholesterol too. There's one story behind it. And I didn't know that flat iron steak actually, Nebraska State University of Nebraska actually find it. And I've been using flat iron steak for past 20 years, but I didn't have no ideas. So it's all about the information. It's all about how we educate ourselves and how we stay on top of the trend. So Nate is already doing it, Norma, you guys all are there, and I'm super excited that I'm here and talking about it as a chef, and I'm learning from them. It's a great thing.
Mike, as a producer, what barriers do you see or do you encounter when it comes getting some of the Nebraska-grown sorghum into our domestic marketplace to fulfill all these needs?
Well, I can't really say the troubles of getting the domestic market. One of the large consumers I sell to anyway, they're so large they can't even tell me where it goes. But I'm looking up there on the list here about that you had up there. I'm going to say probably a quarter of them honestly probably has my grain in it. But they usually can't disclose it to. Actually, I'm meeting with them the next couple of weeks here. So I guess to get a little more, a lot of the consumers we talked about on our conference call, and even they want to know, like, where's the grain come from? Is it from Nebraska? Is it from Kansas? Where there's a little more identity. So I don't know if it's so much of the barrier, it's just passing the knowledge on.
And Nate, being a small business owner, do you have any issues sourcing product, or how do you work through that?
Totally. Last year, about March, I called my grain supplier, and they said there's no more organic sorghum left in the United States. My business revolves around organic sorghum, so I was panicked. They did find one more truckload for me that took me through to the next season. So yeah, it's critical. It's huge.
What would help alleviate that for you?
More.
We've had that conversation already.
Okay, perfect.
Now, it would be good if I could have more control over the grain. I'm working directly with the farmer now, and that's been nice because, if we can develop a relationship and he can skew his sorghum more towards my needs.
Chef, can you tell us how you source product for the hospital?
Yeah, I mean, we had this conversation, right? Norma was asking me that, where you get your sorghum? I said, I don't know. I mean, it comes from Cisco or Lufredo. So I don't know where they source it from. But Nebraska is number 8 grower of sorghum, right? That's what I was reading in one of the pages over there. So, as a chef, we would like to see that is Nebraska grown sorghum and how we can get more in our hand. I need to find that resource too. I'll get in with Norma, or you guys can help me to resource that.
Mike, it sounds like you're the perfect solution.
There you go.
You're a chef. What do you hear from people at the hospital? Are they wanting to know where it comes from? What does that conversation look like?
So all my nurses, doctors, and workers, and also like local Lincoln, so they knows that I'm very involved with local farmers. So I'm a Nebraska Food Council member. I work with the mayor office. We just launched a couple of videos called Resilient Table. So Link TV has a video that how to make asparagus soup and stuff like that. So so nurses, they always ask me, Chef, where are you getting this from? Like I try to do falafel stations every Monday, but half of my chickpea comes from Nebraska. So they dried and from Lone Tree Food. So they say, Chef, I cannot give you 100 pounds, but I can give you 50 pounds. And then I get some from the fair. But I like to say 100% is Nebraska. So I like to tell a story. Like Abbey Vegetable, little town of Abbey, they grow all the greens for me throughout the year, 9 months. Sorry, not throughout the year, 9 months I get local greens from Abbey Farm, and that I highlight them. So all my nurses knows this green came from Abbey. So these are the things that I always like to highlight them. But then single farmers, creating an account is not good for me. Accountant don't like that. So we have Lone Tree Food. So I always refer them to go just tag with the Lone Tree Food, so I can I have an account with the Lone Tree Foods. Lone Tree Food always search local potatoes, Pecorate Farm, and other farms that what I get my local veggies and grain from.
Continuing on the topic of food for medicine, which has gained a lot of traction the last couple years, the Checkoff recently had some news of their own surrounding that. So Norma, can you tell us a little more about that?
Yes, it's very exciting, and I have props here. I don't have a lot of hand-eye coordination, so let me juggle this for a minute. We're very, very excited to announce the launch of the Sorghum Nutrition Supplement and the Sorghum Health Supplement of the Journal of Food Science. The Journal of Food Science is a peer-reviewed journal that all of the food industry and much of the health industry looks to for the latest research, for the latest information, for some of the most promising research that's out there in order to build some of their research goals for the future, as well as to cite in some of the work that they're currently doing, and to publicize and to incorporate, whether it is a health provider or whether it is someone in the nutrition and dietetic space. So this particular journal is, and I brought a couple of copies to leave behind, but there is a copy of it available at sorghumcheckoff.com. We encourage you to go through and look at it. We're happy to supply a handful of these as well if you'd like. But this is the supplement that captures much of the most valuable work that's been done in researching sorghum's health properties to date, because there continues to be more work, and the need for more work in this space as well is something we're very proud of, especially as we work with our efforts with USDA and their dietary guidelines, especially as we work with our efforts on with USDA on incorporating sorghum into school feeding programs. And as we work, some of that work also, there's an outgrowth of that's very promising, and that is in the area of major corporate cafeterias, the large tech firms, et cetera, that have cafeterias on their campuses that are always wanting the most appealing things for their employees to have in those cafeterias. And so that's a premium market that we're continuing to work toward as well. All of this, even if it's the identity tracing, the back to the farm level tracking that consumers are looking for, those are things that are attributes that can bring back a premium for the farmer. And that is one of our three strategic pillars at the Checkoff, is to increase premium for farmers, to improve production, and to improve the perception of sorghum. And so what we're talking about here addresses all of those things, but one of the things that we really like about this space is that it is a way to sell the attributes of sorghum for the benefit of the farmer.
Nate, in your bio, we talked a little bit about how you developed the continuous flow popper. Tell us a little about that.
It's been 12 years in the making. I started on it, many different concepts in the beginning and trashed a few of them. The first one was a combination of a jogger and an oven with a pipe through it and a slinky. I have a, well, that's probably one of the most proprietary parts of it, is the drive mechanism. So basically the sorghum and the grain flow in one end, and it goes through a carbon, I shouldn't say these things, a steel tube, and it has elements underneath which are in a closed loop feedback system to regulate that. And it drives through with the spring mechanism, or the, we'll call it spring mechanism, and it comes out pop the other end. And we've, I don't know how many revisions we've done, but we're on one that works really good, and that's how we produce it now. Prior to that, we did single cycle popping, which was every 120 seconds, you could do a cup of sorghum. That was how we did it for the last 11 years, 10 years. So yeah, it's going to change how we do business for sure.
Do you think this has the opportunity, or this type of innovation work has the opportunity to supply chain change for the snack food industry?
Yes. Yeah, it's and it also works on corn. So yeah, it's probably what's going to make me more money than my popping sorghum business. I hope. But yeah, it's in fact, we just came from Mexico at a healthy food summit, and it doesn't look like we're going to be able to sell our product down there because of restrictions with the expiration, you know, and the customs and warehousing and all that. They love it down there. They're excited. But I can take my machine down there and set up a location down there and, duplicate what we're doing up here.
How has consumer trends around snacks influenced your business growth?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, I listen to what the industry is putting out, and I just happen to be there already. They like the clean labels. You know, a lot of our products have 3 or 4 or 5 healthy ingredients, and so yeah, I'm in the right space at the right time.
What do you think holds for the future for you in this space specifically?
Oh, yeah. Well, we continue to grow and produce new products, and we have to expand in order to get 40% growth per year over year, which is no hockey stick or anything, but means that I've only operated for my own money. I've never had money per se to help me grow, and that's what I need for the next phase. So we're trying to get to Nebraska to set up shop here.
And we'd love to have you. And I was having a conversation earlier about black sorghum. So could you tell us a little bit about that, and maybe if you need any assistance, I know Norma can chime in to help too.
Well, yes, black sorghum is one of my favorite things. Getting into the public's hands is a different story because it's a little different, but it's a wonder grain. It's a super grain. I call white grain a super grain, and black grain is a super grain. I mean black sorghum, sorry. Because of all the polyphenols and flavonoids, and all of those are really good for high blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes. The phytonutrients, the phytochemicals is what helps with that. And we're doing a couple things with it. We're popping it. We have a product called Snack ORAC. ORAC is the measurement of absorption of free radicals, and we kind of put that in a rhyme. So it's Snack ORAC, and that's black sorghum. And we're also selling it in 1 pound, 6 pound jugs, and 50-pound bags, and people are buying them. I think we're the only ones that have it available on retail to the public. So it's in the infant stage, but I think it's going to grow.
Yeah. Like here in Nebraska, I've heard some producers who say they have grown sorghum previously or not now. There's issues getting into elevators, that kind of thing. So having more of an elevator, 1,000-foot view on production here in Nebraska, what are some things you think that would help out to be able to supply this demand that it looks like is coming down the pipeline?
I think any demand is good demand. It's definitely some of the niche markets are probably where it's going to be, like whether it's the black sorghum or the dark reds, the antioxidants, or the whites for the food grade, for the flour, for the poppy and stuff like that. But I was trying to think about it, like commercially wise, it's honestly just education, markets, U.S. Grains Council, the National Checkoff to get those major amount of bushels moved, not so much on the food side anyway. But.
Sure. You've held the test plot and field day for several years now for Nebraska sorghum. Tell us about what that's looked like for you, being able to see the varieties change year over year and the innovation.
The innovation, the seed varieties, I wouldn't say there's a whole heck of a lot of change anyway. Like we talked about the plant breeding before anyway. It's like I can go out there every year and pick out 2 or 3 hybrids that have been there maybe the whole time, the whole 10-year duration. But what that has done for me is it's given me the ability to see it on farm, how everything reacts on my farm, my conditions. And I have a lot of those food grade varieties. I've had trials of those on the side and some waxy hybrids and some other stuff that National sent up to me and tried, and just kind of see what works, send it off, and have it evaluated.
All right, I have plenty more questions. So at any point in time, if any of you have questions, feel free to chime in so we can get them answered as we continue on. Is there any at this point yet? No. All right. Norma, I think might kind of set that up well for you, talking about some of the things that the checkoff helps to do. Can you expand a little more on that?
We need beyond the food space.
Yes.
Well, really, we've got, and it's always a balance, both within marketing and within the food space, but also within the work that Checkoff does. And so a lot of what we do is fund research in the food space and do consumer studies and consumer promotion and information. But the other part of what we do is work on crop improvement activities, whether that is new technologies, over-the-top herbicide control recently that we had success with that came to fruition over the past couple of years. We have very exciting work going on, some of which is further out, and then some of which we try to address issues that are happening or that might emerge, because we all know that in farming, you don't rest long, because sooner or later there'll be another challenge that comes along. And so we look at some short-term projects that address issues such as pinch bugs or other challenges that come along. There is a long-term project that I was visiting with someone about, and I think it was James, that I'm really excited about. And it is a long-term project that the board, a couple of years ago, chose to invest in some work on sorghum physiology. The design and architecture of the sorghum plant itself, from root to tip, is something that we really have not addressed as an industry in modern history. There's been not a lot of comprehensive work in that space. And so one of the projects that we're really proud of from a Checkoff standpoint and excited to see and it's a long-term project, but excited to see what comes of it, is there a way to redesign the sorghum plant itself, whether that is the structure, whether that is leaf size or leaf design, stomatal size, stomatal count, root size, etc., just in order to improve the profitability and the production efficiency for you all. And that's a project that is, I think Tim sometimes rolls his eyes because he gets tired of hearing expressions that I use over and over again, but I call it the Sorghum Dream Team that is part of this project. It's one of those that involves researchers from all of the major institutions that work on sorghum, including universities and ARS, and it's a project that we're very excited about that is about the first phase of it is about halfway through, and so that's an example of what we do in this space other than food.
Chef, I want to know a lot more on educating your consumers. So patients that are in the hospital who maybe never heard about sorghum, what does that education look like coming from you and the staff to the folks eating it?
Great questions. I think Nate was talking about, customers are looking for clean label, right? So as a chef and whoever works in the front of the house, I always tell my teammates that, first we need to educate. Like, giving you a little story. Like 10 years ago, when I redesigned the cafeteria, so we started doing a noodle bowl. So the noodle bowl, one of my front of the house managers said that, "Chef, it's Nebraska. Nobody will eat noodle bowl. They just like meat and potato." So I said, well, let's try. Let's see, how the noodle bowl goes. So that is the highest selling station now in our cafeteria. So the noodle bowl has lotus roots. So people hardly knows about lotus roots. So I was out there and with my team that we're serving the noodle bowl. I said, yeah, it's a little bit crunchy, like it doesn't have very strong flavor. So, and again, like another things like hikima. Oh, it's like an apple, but not too sweet, but it's crunchy. So I always tell and educate the nurse, and nurse or our employee, they eat every day in the cafeteria. So when patient's family comes into the cafeteria, so they say, what is that white diced thing? So now my cooks don't have to tell them. Nurse says that, oh, that's hikima. That tastes like apple, crunchy, but it's not apple. So these are the education part as a chef or as a leader. So we need to talk about it and we need to put a sign, we need to have a clear pictures. So that's what I was talking about, like when I do like Abby's farm, lettuce, pecore farm, potato salad stations. So I have pictures, I have the story into the frame, and then when nurse or patient's family comes and eat together in a cafeteria, they said, "Oh, I know Bryan, from Peculiar Farm. He's my neighbor." It's creating a story, like creating a connection. So that we can do as a chef. I say at the beginning, I don't build a rocket, I cook food. And I try to tell a story and try to engage the farmer with my story with the Bryan Health. So that's what we are doing. And food works as a medicine, so our doctors are very involved with our nutrition. So we do Project Pink gala event, like a cancer survival woman that comes in. We do a food demo, and also tell them how nutritional food it is. I do a lot of cooking demo at Bryan Health, and throughout Lincoln area, so we do a lot of other food demo, healthy lifestyle. So lots of millets comes into action, lots of local food comes to action. Like zucchini, we all know grows zucchini throughout the summer, but we only know one way to eat zucchini. But there's like 1,000 ways of eating zucchinis, right? So as a chef, we need to educate them. We need to tell them, okay, you can make zucchini board, you can make zucchini noodles, you can do with zucchini bread, and bread is not only sweet, you can turn it to a savory bread. All those other things that we can tell our consumer to do better and eat good foods.
You said the noodle bowl was a top favorite.
Right.
What are some other top favorites of sorghum at the hospital?
Sorghum, we don't do that every day. So I have to be honest with you, but we do lots of lentil, we do lots of quinoa. So we have pasta salad. We make a pasta salad, so say 60% pasta, 40% is quinoa. So we always try to add some sort of millets into our pasta salads and other things. And sorghum for me is hard to get. But we do often, like Doctor's Lounge gets some sorghum salad with the local mushrooms. Mushroom coming up, so we will have like lots of mushroom salad with sorghum. So, and different time for educational purpose, I use sorghum. But I'll be honest with you, not people are looking for sorghum that much because it's the educational piece. But a lot of people knows about quinoa. So quinoa, pretty much Bryan Health, everybody knows about quinoa. We have black, we have red quinoa, so we use that a lot.
Double the protein by putting the sorghum in.
I was going to say, how can we help you get more sorghum?
So, and that's what I came here for, to make connections with Nate and Mike and Norma, so getting more information from them. And the way I get all the resource, local food, so maybe they can give me the right connections to work with Lone Tree Foods. And if we can energize the Lone Tree Food serving all the Lincoln restaurants to all the Omaha restaurants, and biggest player is me, is Bryan Health. So I think that way probably I can collect some local sorghum.
Jessica,
Yes.
if I could, jump
Yes.
in, because each one of you has in one way or another mentioned supply chain.
Right.
Norma, could you talk about some of the things that the USCP focuses on and works toward to try and create some of those markets?
I will, but from a supply chain standpoint, one very important consideration there is that we are very careful when it comes to some of the larger possibilities that we're working on and that we have out there, such as school feeding programs, for instance, to strike a delicate balance that we have of ensuring that we are not over-promising and under-delivering from a supply standpoint. And so it is very critical that we have that balance because we want to grow those markets and we want to encourage chefs to serve sorghum every day. But we also need to be able to work with our producers to ensure that that supply is going to be there. And so it's one of the things that the Checkoff board did in the new iteration of the strategic plan was to ensure that not just addressing the marketing end of it and the promotion end of it, but that we're really emphasizing working with the producers on informing about the benefits of growing sorghum and what some of those markets might be that are out there. So it's a balance that we try to strike from a supply chain standpoint, as well as providing information with successful models and showcasing producers like Mike that are working in the space and providing that as information for producers on the best way to maybe enter this market and work in it successfully.
Tim has a question or a comment.
Are most of your products pre-cooked, or do you cook most of them?
So that's a good question too. Beginning when I was doing raw, it's not pre-cooked. So I had a hard time to cook the sorghum. So the right way I find it, like overnight soak it, and then we do like we have a pressure cooker, and also we have steam kettles and also all those things. Then I part like 80-90% I cook it. Then I do the finished product the day of the event. Either I do risotto or pasta, sorghum salads. That's how I do it. But I don't get pre-cooked one. It's raw one.
So that brings up a really good point, and going back to Tracy's question, one of the major efforts that our team is undergoing is working to produce an IQF type product, something that's ready, cooked, and just needs to be taken out and heated through, that can be, and I don't know, you all might use products that are the ready cooked rice, that you don't actually have to cook the full rice. It's one of my favorites. If I can cook something in 90 seconds, I'm going to cook it in 90 seconds. But that is one of the major initiatives that we have. It is, it's taking time, quite frankly, because when we do deliver that to market, we want to be sure that it's a good quality product that won't leave anyone cold when it comes to their experience with working with sorghum. Sorghum has wonderful characteristics, and we talk about flavonoids and polyphenols, and all that's very important, but in some cases, and there's just a lot there when it comes to sorghum, sometimes we go back to the basics and want to be sure that chef or that the food processing industry is aware of some of the characteristics that are inherent in sorghum that make it an appealing thing, such as its ability to stay crisp and to retain texture and not to get soggy and not to get mushy in a soup, for instance. And so we want to be sure that it is an initiative that we're working on, and would love to potentially reach out to you in the future to as we begin to launch that and wrap that and take it to market.
Another one I have with Mike, I know you've done some birdseed, probably towards Colorado. How about, and this will tee up Norma, I hope, the pet industry. Have you provided them to any of the pet industries, either Aurora or anywhere else?
Pet industry local, no. Not that I guess I'm aware of, but I ship a lot to, say, northeastern United States anyway, for the pet industry. That's where it's going anyway. So there definitely is a market for that. And well, what else? I just shipped a few totes down, going back to USCP. I just had like Brent Crafton yesterday, so he's doing his job. He called me yesterday morning at 8 o'clock. I shipped 4 pail buckets of grain sorghum down to Florida for a fish testing, aquaculture test anyway. But I do know Aurora takes some for, I assume, pet food or dog food. So I've never been able to work my way into that market, but I do know it is there.
It's a very promising market. It's not really the topic of this panel, but it's related because some people actually are more careful about what they feed their pets than what they feed themselves, and they read those ingredient lists much more carefully for their pet foods than they do their own foods that they consume. And so that's one of the reasons that it's a promising and has been a premium market for our producers as well, and we're continuing to work in that space.
I think Amy had a question.
Nate, a question for you. I think in the past we've had your snacks at some of our meetings. And is the primary product, is it usually just like topped with flavoring in there? Or do you have
Correct.
Yes.
Our best seller is avocado sea salt, and it just has avocado oil and sea salt and organic sorghum. That's it. A lot of the other ones have that's not there anymore. There's some with a lot of ingredients. They're all spices, but about 5% of my business is probably the raw stuff that people will take to pop their own, the DIY popping sorghum, or to cook with.
How do you recommend people pop it at home? What's the best that you can tell?
Well, that's probably the biggest call that we get from dissatisfied customers is They call up and they say, I keep burning the sorghum. Why isn't your sorghum popping? And I'll say, well, I'll run through their setup. And I said, you just need to turn up the heat, which doesn't make sense because it's burning. But the fact is they're very small, so you have to pop them much faster. And you have to start with a warm apparatus, because if you were to heat it up slowly, the moisture would leave the kernel and it wouldn't pop, and it burns eventually. So yeah, hotter, faster. And if you want details, I got a pretty subpar video out that details it.
Following up to how to pop sorghum, what are some good ways do you think, Norma or Chef, Mike, obviously you can chime in too, on people starting out to cooking with sorghum? What are some good, easy ways that they can start incorporating that into their own culinary desires?
I'm actually going to defer. Much as I grow and promote it, I have never cooked it once. I'm not going to lie to you.
So, my husband would laugh right now if he knew I was answering a cooking question, but I'll go for it anyway. You know, what we like to do is put it in a slow cooker with some water and some salt on a Sunday, and just kind of let it cook all day. Sorghum has an amazing shelf life once it's been cooked in your refrigerator. You can keep it in the fridge all week. It holds up really well, again, because of that starch protein structure that it has. And, you know, there's been some warnings in media recently about keeping rice in your refrigerator too long. There's, Chef may know more about this, but there's some microbes that it can grow. But sorghum doesn't do that because of its structure. So it stays in your refrigerator safely for up to a week. And you can scoop it out and add it to your salads. You can, toss it with some a little vinegar and oil and some herbs. You can add it into a soup. Again, a 1/4 cup serving gets you 28% of the way to your daily protein requirement. So if you're looking to add some protein, it's a wonderful way to do it, and a low glycemic way to do it.
And one thing just I can add on, like, it's hard to mess it up with sorghum. So when I start slow cooking or putting into the steam kettles and stuff like that, overnight soak it, I don't have really time on it. You know, I just walk around, do other things, and I come back and I check, the right consistency, and then I just, okay, this is done, take it out. And when you put it into the cooler, make sure it cool fast, and then it's hold its shape. Next day, you can put it into the boiling water again, and just for 1 or 2 minutes, and then it's right to go any directions you want it to, whether add it to your soup or making a risotto, or you just making a cold sorghum salad with your other roasted vegetables, fresh herbs, olive oil, salt, pepper, and of course you need lemon zest and lemon juice. So that will make it a beautiful salad.
I got one. I also store it in the refrigerator ready to go, which is perfect for making fried rice out of it. Use it instead of rice. Just complete swap. It's really good.
And there's also sorghum flour. So I'm assuming that's the same substitution for pretty much any recipe that would call for flour, that you could swap it out instead.
There are some tweaks that need to be made, and sorghumcheckoff.com has a number of recipes that are specifically tailored for working with sorghum and for working with sorghum flour. Again, I'm not the expert in the kitchen, but I'm glad that Sorghum Checkoff, the people that do know what they're doing with food, have done the homework for all of us, so that we don't have to figure out what some of those tweaks are, but you can go there for those directions.
Yeah, the flour has like more gluten, and sorghum does not have that. So when I try to bake the cookie, I make my own flour. I didn't buy sorghum flour, so I had a couple of troubleshoot, then I fixed it. So just need to see those videos. Lots of references out there, but it doesn't bind quickly. So because like flour has a dough consistency, like making a pasta and stuff like that. So there's some troubleshoot. You can see the videos and stuff.
If someone else in the food service industry was looking at incorporating sorghum into their rotation, do you have any advice for them how to start out doing that?
Yeah, I think Norma just said about IQF. I mean, if IQF is start that, I think that will make chef lives easier. So these days, labor shortage and all those, I'm not going to say like that, but still, a lot of chefs are not like the old school trained like me. So we try to get hands-on, and I'm just completely different way. But new generation of chefs, they just want quick and fast, and they don't want to work more than 8 hours. So so for that purpose, if they have easy, ready to go, they will play with lots of flavor. So flavor is, every chef has their own unique flavor. So that will be big help for the industry.
We've been very fortunate at the Checkoff to be able to find and retain a corporate chef consultant. His name is, and this is hard to say, so I'm going to challenge myself, Chef Chase Obenchain is his name, and he's been a wonderful resource for the food service and hospitality industry. He's working with a number of restaurant test kitchens that are working with sorghum as, again, for all the reasons that the consumers want that we've talked about. They're looking for that next thing. They're looking for that unique thing that they can offer their guests. And so our chef consultant has been very good about going out and working with some of these other chefs and some of these restaurants. We knew he was a perfect fit when he's not from the sorghum industry. He's from culinary arts, but he has a son named Milo, so we thought it's an automatic deal maker.
Is there any additional audience questions? Otherwise,
I have a quick question here.
Yes.
I think I know what IQF, instant
You can say that.
quick frozen. There you
Quick
go.
frozen,
Instant
yes.
quick frozen.
Vacuum sealed. I think kind of ROI, reduce oxygen packaging. So when they do flash freeze, they just do that vacuum packaging, flash frozen. Yeah.
all right, as we wrap things up, I would be interested to hear from each panelist what opportunities excite you the most for the future of sorghum, or you can let me know what you think the outlook is for the next 5 to 10 years on human consumption of sorghum.
I'll actually start this off. Speaking primarily as a supplier, I guess. I think let's say supplier processor, minor processor. I think the future is super exciting. There are so many opportunities. Like I said, I'm just a small guy from Southwest Nebraska. I'm literally shipping packaged grain from all the way from Baltimore to Oakland, California right now. So large processors, small processors, they're all trying to find it. Still not sure how they find me, I guess, anyway, but it's always good. But I think the opportunities there, just for me and myself anyway, I honestly just clean, package, and ship. I still try to think, what opportunities are there. Much as my wife hates it, I'm like, my mind never stops wandering. So I'm thinking maybe decorticator next year anyway, we should take the whole off and harvest the brand. There's lots of opportunity there for that. There may not be the market there for it quite yet, but I think it is there. And there's just all sorts of other opportunities that really haven't been explored or have been, just not on a major level. So I think it's super bright. Well,
I feel the same way. Probably they Sorghum Checkoff need to make some TikTok video, several of them. I'm kidding.
Don't kid.
I think cutting edge, cutting trendy things, connected with the young generations is a key factor. And also, like clean label. You just say that avocado oil, sorghum, and a little salt. So that clean label is the key. And from a healthcare standpoint, even I was a hotel chef, and I see there is need for it. So 5 years down the road, I'm sure that sorghum is going to be everywhere. Like same thing, quinoa. People did not know anything about quinoa 10 years ago, but pretty much everybody knows how to play with quinoa. So same thing, chefs will know more, and the more information they get, actually is better for them, and then easy stuff, they can make things happen. I'm sure there's a great future for it.
I'll double what these guys say, but I tell people all the time, this is the grain of the future. There's no grains out there that have the same property as this grain. It's the most sustainable grain we have. It's got the greatest health benefits. I don't tell people to quit taking their high blood pressure medicine or their cholesterol. I tell them, if you start eating this on a regular basis, not only will it help the situation you have, it'll help all the other things about your body. It's got the fiber, it's got protein, it's got polyphenols, antioxidants, it's got it all.
Just to echo that, it's an ancient grain, but it's the grain of the future at the same time, and it's a great position to be in. I really think a lot of the promise comes from the IQF, which will initially be a food service type of product, but eventually also becomes a consumer-friendly product for people like me that like to cook in 90 seconds. And so I think that holds a lot of promise. I also think with the current conversation around food and health, people are going to begin learning more about that and seeing how they can fit. In some cases, it's just an ingredient change that can change all of the things that we love eating now by making a simple ingredient switch in some of our packaged products and what that can do for it. The beauty of being, when I first worked for sorghum in 1998, we would get very excited if we saw a product that just said sorghum on the front. And that still excites me. I get very excited when I see the word sorghum on the tiny ingredients on the back of a popular brand or a popular product now, because it's already happening in pet food, and I'm sure if I paid closer attention to what I myself ate, there's probably something with food as well for human consumption, in that there are pet parents out there that have an app that if a pet food company changes their formulation, they get an alert. Beware, beware. Acme Pet Food Company just changed their pet food formulation, and you need to be really careful with your pet. So when you are on an ingredient list on the back of a package, those companies are very hesitant to change their ingredients and to have to redo that, A, because it's expensive, B, because now the consumer is going to be alerted on it from a pet food standpoint and probably from a food ingredient standpoint as well. And so when you can get on an ingredient list on the back of a package, that means that they are going to pay a premium to keep using sorghum if they have to, when there's competition out there for sorghum. And that's always good for the farmer, is to have that inelastic market. So that's what I'm excited about.